Welcome back to our show, your show, Let's Talk Stocks. Joining us in studio this morning is Dereck Rajack. Of course, is CEO of CariCris, our newest regional ratings agency. And of course, he's here to tell us all about that segment of the industry and why it is important to you. Dereck, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Neilson. Thanks for having me.
All right. CariCris.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me about who is CariCris.
So I mentioned the newest, but we're not so new.
Oh.
CariCris has actually been operating in the region since 2004.
Oh,
so we've been here about 20 years now. We rate quite a number of entities across the region. So CariCris is a credit rating agency, right? We don't do individual credit ratings. I get that a lot. A lot of times people hear credit rating agency and they're like, oh, you're the guys we come and talk to for loans. No, not individuals.
Yes.
We're almost, you could think of us as the equivalent of like S&P and Moody's from the US.
Yes.
We rate governments and we rate corporate entities. So that's what CariCris does. That's a prime, I would say the primary focus. We do have some other things which I could talk about later. So what we do, we facilitate capital market activity in a sense when entities or governments want to raise financing. You know, an important component of that is understanding the credit profile of that government or that corporate entity. So our ratings actually help, you know, investors get a sense of, you know, what's going on behind the scenes, what's their debt payment capacity like. So we give a full report on our view of that particular country or company. And that really helps investors. It's, you know, we always say it's not the sole tool. We don't recommend buy or sell, but we give information. So in a sense, we bring a lot of transparency to the market. And that's one of the primary uses of credit ratings.
Interesting, Dereck. But I think it's very important if you give our viewers a little insight into the setup of CariCris, who are the big stakeholders, I put it that way, in CariCris and how you came about.
Right, so CariCris really was a joint effort among various entities across the region. So multilateral banks, central banks, and the financial sector. So we have quite a number of shareholders. No shareholders any majority because we want to keep it as independent as possible. But yeah, our shareholding is wide, and as I mentioned, if you look at just our current board, our current board consists of people like Central Bank of Trinidad, Central Bank of Barbados, IDB, CDB, Central Bank of Suriname, and we also have a technical partner and another credit rating agency that's based out of India, CRISIL. They were instrumental in the founding and in the initial, you know, setup of CariCris, and they're also a shareholder. They're our technical partners, and they sit on our board as well. So just, you know, those are a few. If the website has a full listing, but yeah, we're really set up when, you know, there was a need for independent ratings. Now most corporate entities, you know, to go to the global guys, it's probably a little, you know, pricey one. And also when you go to global rating agencies, you get compared against everybody in the world, right? But CariCris, we focus only on the region. So we're much more accessible, we believe. I mean, we're here, we have an office in Jamaica, we have an office in Trinidad, and we have people that operate, and we move across the region wherever we have to go. And you know, so we're accessible because we're here in the region, and we do our comparisons against other companies within the region. So that's a big difference.
As we're talking about the region, are we only talking about the Caribbean region, or as the international markets tend to do, is that they link us with Latin America, so it's usually Latin America and the Caribbean, or are we just looking at the Caribbean region?
No, for now, we're focused primarily and predominantly on the Caribbean, right? So, you know, we rate companies across the region. We do have a few sovereigns in the region, but that's our focus.
Right.
Will we look at Latin America eventually? Maybe. that's something that we have, as part of our strategic plan to explore new territories, etc. But for me, I just want to get the ratings, because ratings is not very, I would say, fully integrated yet in all countries within the region. So I think first my goal would be get the Caribbean region properly integrated, make sure ratings is well represented in regulations, make sure that we have a strong rating base in not just our key markets like Trinidad and Jamaica, but all countries across the region. And then we can explore beyond that.
As we look at it, Dereck, the Caribbean generally has been, previously been a significant cash-based economy. But as we look to grow and expand, we need new funding, new capital to fund that expansion, hence the importance of rating agencies like CariCris. How important does the Caribbean region see an agency like CariCris, where they can say, this is our own rating agency, they're local, they can see things as they are on the ground, and of course with partners like the IDB and so on at the table?
Yeah, I mean, so you're right. As we grow as a region, we do need capital to grow. Our companies need capital to grow. Countries may need to access financing, to fund projects and so on. In the region, as I said before, we are very accessible. I think how we can contribute is that, ratings are part of regulations, for example,
yes.
Right? So, for example, depending on the rating of an entity, it filters through into how much capital, for example, a bank or securities company may need to hold. Because those are that's the way global regs have been moving, risk-based capital.
Yes.
So you'll find that, one, people like transparency. So just by you showing that you're willing to be transparent, have a rating done, that in my view sends a strong message, despite whatever the rating might be initially. And then two, the better you're rated, the better you have negotiating power, right? One, because banks would have to hold less capital against your credit, but also, because you're perceived, depending on where you fall on the rating scale, if you're perceived to be a stronger credit, means that you have some more negotiating power, and therefore your cost of capital could be impacted. Now, in developed markets, what happens is that with active trading, that price discovery kind of happens based on market activity. We're not quite there yet in the region because bond trading is not as active as global markets. But we hope over time that as activity increases, more issuers come to the table, more people get rated, we'll actually have definitive trading data and definitive evidence to show how much ratings could benefit issuers.
All right. Talk to us about what are some of these ratings? What's the scale? What the rating scale looks like, and what does it mean?
Yeah, so our rating scale is very similar to the global agencies. We go from AAA, so you have AAA, then you have AA, then single A, and it goes all the way down to the lowest would be like C and D, which is normally a default, right? We actually, if you follow our LinkedIn page or if you go online, you'll see the full list and the descriptions. AAA means, the highest rated. Now, the rating is actually linked to what we call probability of default.
Okay.
How likely it is for an issuer to default. So AAA would be the very lowest probability of default. And obviously, as you come down the line, when you get to the C's and so on, that probability of default will increase, and of course D is outright default. All right. So the rating scale goes from AAA down to D, but there are modifiers, and so that rating language has its own nomenclature. So there are the modifiers, which you'll see sometimes pluses and minuses attached to it. AAA is just AAA, but all the others could be modified with a plus. So you could see Like, for example, you could see A plus, A minus. And that really shows graduation, and it gives us a sense to see whether something is moving in the right direction. So before you go from A to double A, you might go A to A plus and then to double A. So it's all incremental, so it shows direction. And we also have something called outlooks, right? So you'll see sometimes we'll announce a rating and say there's a stable outlook or positive outlook or negative outlook. So again, it's all directional. We tend to put those there if we feel we'll keep an entity's rating as stable. If we think, over the next year to 2 years, we expect them to remain, sort of where they are, not necessarily increase significantly or decrease significantly. If we switch to a positive outlook, it means that we're seeing something that suggests, in the next 18 months or so, 12 to 18 months, we could see an improvement in that rating. And similarly for negative, it's a likelihood that maybe within the next year to 18 months, we could see things developing that could lead to a downgrade. It's all explained in a rating report. So when you see a rating report, it's all explained. I mean, we even say in the full reports, and I think even in the summaries that we release to the public, we even say what are the factors that could lead to your rating improving or declining. So that's also a part of the report. So it sounds technical, but it's not. As I said, we have actually right now on LinkedIn, we're running an education series on our LinkedIn page. I think last week we posted, or if not last week, the prior week, we posted on the rating scale and the descriptions. And this week we're going to be posting something on the different modifiers and outlooks and so on to explain it to the public. So we know that it's something that's not fully understood yet, but we're trying to put content out there to explain it, and sessions like this help as well.
Well, there you have it, viewers. We've been chatting with Dereck Rajack, he's CEO of CariCris, and of course, he's giving us all the information we need to know about ratings and ratings agencies, as well as rated corporations and sovereigns. Of course, we couldn't get all this information in one show. So we ask you to come back for the second part of that discussion with Dereck. As we always say here on Let's Talk Stocks, we give you information to make better financial decisions. Come back with us tomorrow morning at 9. Another wonderful program lined up for you.